You ever notice how sports sometimes feel bigger than the actual game? Like you're not just watching goals and passes, you're watching this insane human story unfold in real time. And right now, what's happening in Miami feels exactly like that because we're not just talking about a team trying to sneak into the playoffs. We're talking about a global icon battling his own body, carrying the weight of an entire league's attention, and trying to drag a squad across the finish line while the clock is ticking louder and louder every game. And that tension is electric, man, because every time he touches the ball, you're asking yourself, can he still do it? Can he still bend the game to his will? Or is the grind finally catching up? And the crazy part is nobody knows, not even him. And that's why people can't look away because this is high stakes drama at its rawest. It's not scripted, it's not guaranteed, it's fragile, and it's beautiful. And if you really think about it, that's why we love sports, because moments like this feel like watching a legend wrestle with time itself. And whether you're a fan of Miami or not, whether you're rooting for or against him, you're still locked in because deep down, you know you're watching something you'll tell stories about years from now. The thing about recurring injuries, man, is they're like this invisible opponent that never really goes away. They creep in, they linger, and they mess with everything. Because when you're talking about a guy at that level, the margins are so razor thin, it's not like he's getting wrecked by one catastrophic tackle. It's the little strains, the tight muscles, the fatigue that just keeps building up over time, and the body starts telling you, hey, I'm not bouncing back like I used to. And that's brutal when you're in a league like MLS where the travel is insane. The climate changes, the schedule is stacked, and you've got defenders coming at you with nothing to lose. And when you're carrying the weight of an entire team, every little tweak becomes a massive storyline because it's not just about missing a game, it's about rhythm, it's about momentum, it's about the psychological effect it has on everyone around you. Like teammates start second guessing, coaches have to rip up their game plans, and fans hold their breath every time he grabs his hamstring. And the crazy part is you can tell it frustrates him just as much as anyone else because this is a guy who's used to playing every minute, delivering magic, dragging teams across the line, and now suddenly the body is saying, nope, you've got to sit, and that eats at competitors, man, because they don't want to rest, they don't want to watch from the sideline. But those recurring knocks don't care about your mindset. They just keep showing up like a bad reminder that time's undefeated, and what makes it even wilder is that every little injury feels amplified because of who he is. Like if it's some random player, no one's talking about it, but when it's him, the whole world freaks out, people questioning if he's done, if he can still carry a team. And that's where the conversation gets heavy because now you're balancing short-term pain versus long-term payoff. Like, do you risk pushing through for the playoffs and potentially making it worse? Or do you protect the bigger picture? And it's this constant tug of war between legacy expectations and biology. And when you think about recurring injuries like that, it's not just a medical problem, it's a psychological war, it's a tactical nightmare. And it's the one thing you can't outwork because you can be the most talented, the most disciplined, the most prepared. But when the body decides to slow down, all you can do is adapt. And that's the real battle right now. The wildest part about this whole situation is just how insanely dependent the team is on him. Like it's almost uncomfortable to watch sometimes because you can see the whole identity of Inter Miami shift the second he steps on the field versus when he's not there, when he's playing the passes are crisp. The confidence is flowing. Guys are making runs they wouldn't normally make because they know the ball will actually get there. The defense plays with more focus because they trust he'll bail them out on the other end. And the crowd has this energy that feels like they're watching something historic every single touch. But then when he's gone, it's like someone turned the power off. The rhythm is gone. Players hesitate. The attack looks toothless. And the entire aura of the team just collapsed. And that's dangerous, man. Because in a sport that's supposed to be about 11 guys working as a unit, you've got one player who's basically the engine, the battery, the steering wheel. And without him, it looks like a car with no wheels. And that dependence is scary when you're trying to make a playoff push because every game matters. And if the whole system crashes without one dude, then you're living and dying by his availability. And that's not sustainable. And you can tell other teams know it too, like they raise their intensity when he's not there. They smell blood, they press higher, they take chances because they know the danger isn't the same. And that just magnifies how fragile this setup is. And it's wild because it's not like they don't have talent. They've got Busquets, they've got Alba, they've got young dudes trying to break through. But it's like without him, the belief just evaporates. And that shows you how much gravity one player can have, how he doesn't just play the game, he changes the psychology of everyone on the field, both his team and the opposition. That's a gift. but also a curse. Because if you're Miami, you're thinking we've built this dream project around him. But the reality is, if his body betrays him even a little, the whole thing wobbles. And in a playoff race where margins are tiny, that dependence can be the difference between lifting a trophy and sitting at home watching someone else do it. And that's the gamble they've made, banking everything on one legend and hoping he can carry them every single time he laces up. The thing about playoff pressure in MLS is that it's like a ticking clock that never shuts up, because the whole season comes down to these razor-thin margins, where one injury, one bad game, or one missed chance can literally decide your fate. And with a guy like him, the weight of that pressure just multiplies because everyone knows he's the difference maker. He's the guy who can flip a match with one moment of genius. So every time he's not in the lineup, the anxiety level skyrockets. Fans are panicking, teammates are tense, and coaches are scrambling trying to reinvent the playbook on the fly. And that's not just stressful, that's exhausting. And the playoff race in this league isn't forgiving. It's brutal. You don't have time to figure things out because there are too many teams clawing for those spots. And if you drop points here and there while waiting for him to get healthy, you're suddenly on the outside looking in. And the crazy part is you can feel that energy bleeding into the games. Like when he's on the field, there's this calm, this confidence, but when he's not, every missed shot feels heavier. Every defensive mistake feels fatal. Because the safety net is gone, that mental load eats at guys. It makes them play tighter, second-guess decisions. And that's the dangerous spiral in sports where pressure turns into hesitation. Hesitation turns into mistakes. And mistakes cost you games. And the fans know it too. They show up expecting him to save the day. And when he's not there, the atmosphere is almost flat, like a concert where the headliner cancels and the crowd just kind of goes through the motions. And you add on the fact that MLS is unpredictable as hell, with long travel, different climate, teams that can run you into the ground physically. The pressure is doubled, because it's not like Europe where one or two giants dominate. Here anyone can smash you on a random night. And that means your margin for error is basically zero. And when the whole league smells blood in the water because your star isn't fully fit, they're coming harder, tackling harder, running more, because they know if they knock you off now, it's a 6-point swing in the playoff race. And that's why this playoff push feels like walking on a tightrope, because every step without him feels like you might slip. And with the clock ticking, that pressure just keeps stacking until it either makes you tougher or completely breaks you down. The whole conversation about squad depth and the supporting cast is where it gets really interesting, because this is where you see if a team is built to actually survive the grind or if it's just a one-man show with some expensive window dressing. And with Inter Miami, it feels like you've got this mix of world-class veterans who've been there and done it, like Busquets and Albus, some hungry young guys who are trying to make a name for themselves. But the problem is the gap between what the team looks like with him on the field and what it looks like without him is still massive. And that's where depth becomes the deciding factor. Because in a playoff chase, you can't just rely on one guy to carry the load every single night. You need guys who can step up, create, finish, and grind out ugly wins when the star is sidelined. And the question is, can they do that consistently? Because it's one thing to have a highlight reel moment when he's next to you, drawing all the attention. It's another to be the guy when the defense is keyed in on you. And that's where the supporting cast gets tested, man, because you can see the flashes. Busquets still dictating tempo, Alba making those overlapping runs. But what about the younger players? Are they ready to shoulder that pressure? Are they confident enough to take risks, to try the killer pass, to go for goal when the game is on the line? Because that's the difference between being passengers and being true partners in the mission. And the crazy part is you can feel the league daring them to prove it. Like every time the main guy is injured, other teams are basically saying, okay, let's see if you can beat us without your superhero. And if the depth isn't there, you get exposed. And that's where the frustration kicks in for fans. Because they know this team has resources. They know it's not some small club just happy to be here. So they expect the supporting cast to actually deliver. And if they don't, then the whole thing starts to look like a one-man project instead of a serious playoff contender. And that's the big gamble, man, because you can't win championships on the back of one guy. No matter how great he is, you need a collective that can cover, that can adapt, and that can find ways to win when the superstar is watching from the bench in street clothes.
And until that's consistent, the depth question is going to hang over them like a dark cloud.
When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, man, it's wild because this whole thing isn't just about one player's injuries or even Inter Miami's playoff push. It's about what it represents for soccer in the US, for MLS as a league, and for how global icons change the trajectory of a sport. Because this guy isn't just another player, he's a living, breathing brand. He's a cultural movement, and the league has basically hitched its wagon to him, selling tickets, TV deals, merchandise, and even expanding fan bases around the world because of his presence. So when he's not playing, it's not just Miami that feels it. The league feels it, broadcasters feel it, and the buzz dips. And that's insane when you think about one person holding that much gravity in a professional league. But it also shows you the double-edged sword of relying on a global superstar to legitimize your product. Because yeah, it boosts you into the mainstream, but it also exposes you when that player inevitably gets injured or ages. And the bigger picture here is about sustainability, about whether Miami and MLS can take this spotlight moment and build an actual foundation that survives beyond him. Because if every conversation is just about whether he's fit or not, then you've got a short-term sugar rush, not a long-term strategy. And that's the test. Can they develop the infrastructure, the academies, the squad depth, and the competitiveness to thrive once the glow of having a legend fades? And for Miami, that's even more intense, because they're not just a team, they're this experiment in star power, a franchise that went from being average to the center of global attention overnight. And that creates insane expectations. So when you look at the bigger picture, it's not only about winning a playoff spot this year, it's about what message they're sending to the rest of the soccer world. Do they prove that MLS can be a serious destination, a league where legends can still dominate and also inspire the next generation? Or do they look like a gimmick that crumbles the second the main guy tweaks his hamstring? And that's what fascinates me. Because sports are never just sports at this level. They're business, culture, identity, and narrative. And the bigger picture is this balancing act between the short-term thrill of watching a GOAT light up Miami and the long-term responsibility of turning that thrill into something that lasts when he eventually hangs up his boots. Because if they get it right, this moment could be remembered as the turning point for American soccer. But if they blow it, it'll just be another what could have been chapter in the story of MLS. So if you step back and put all of this together, man, what you see is this insane crossroads where talent, pressure, health, and history are all colliding at the same time. Because on one hand, you've got a guy who's still showing flashes of absolute brilliance, reminding the world why he's been at the top of the game for 2 decades. And on the other hand, you've got the reality of injuries, the weight of carrying a team, the playoff race breathing down your neck, and the question of whether the squad around him can rise to the occasion. And it's not just about the next few matches, it's about the future of the league, the credibility of Miami as a franchise, and even how global fans perceive American soccer. Because these moments are bigger than sports, they're cultural shit, and watching it unfold in real time is like watching history on fast forward. You don't know if it's going to end in triumph or heartbreak, but either way, it's fascinating as hell. And that's why we all tune in, man, because this is the raw drama of competition. It's the human body fighting time. It's the weight of expectation. It's the gamble of ambition. And that's why I say good luck to the team, good luck to the fans riding this roller coaster, and good luck to the man himself, who's out there pushing the limits of what's possible at this stage in his career. Because no matter how it plays out, we should be grateful. We're here to witness it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this crazy ride. And let's just enjoy every second of it while it lasts.